All right, everybody. We are actually live in 2019. Hello.
Wow, hello.
Woohoo.
Ooh, we made it.
We made it.
We look, wasn't that a theme song somewhere? Looks like we made it.
Oh yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it looks like it. Looks like it.
At least. Okay. So here we are. We are Tiara International, a global leadership development firm specifically focused on leadership development for women. Although really, with our model for true leadership, we have more and more clients of all kinds and all sizes across the world. So that's exciting as we start this year. Every Friday, we try to go live at some point. We target noon at Central Time, and sometimes it's a little earlier, a little bit later. But here we are getting live again in 2019. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Betsy Sobiech. I'm one of the global leaders for Tiara. And today, let's see who we've got. We've got Andrea Henning from the Netherlands.
Hello.
And Franciska Dekker, also from the Netherlands. Hello.
Hello.
Perfect. And Beth Ruske from the Chicago area. Okay, and to kick off the year, it's a bit of a topic that you might expect because it's January 2019. So we are going to talk about starting your year, and who knows what direction it will go in. I know that we have coming up this next week our program that we do every January called 15 Days to Wow, which is an opportunity for anyone really from anywhere to spend 15 minutes or less a day really methodically completing everything that happened in 2018 and then launching a very integrated and inspired way to approach 2019, almost like creating a roadmap, if you will. So on one hand, that might not sound like very much time, 15 minutes a day. Some people spend whole weekend retreats or week-long retreats envisioning their next year. On the other hand, it might sound like a long time, 15 days. Like, why can't we just get that done all at once? But we've designed that process specifically to have it percolate over time, yet also be sort of like integrated in our day-to-day. So we'll talk more about that probably throughout the call. Yet I'm just interested first to start off asking you guys, you know, at this stage of the game, Tiara has been around now for 10 years, and I know we've all been doing personal growth development, leadership development, team effectiveness for, you know, a few years beyond that. And yet every year, every client, every engagement, we bring new inspiration, new motivation, new focus. We get excited again about what's in store. And my question is, like, how do we do that? How does somebody year after year actually dig deep and get a new set of goals or a new source of inspiration or a new focus that kind of keeps them moving forward towards something on the horizon? What are some of the things that you do personally, and what are some of the best practices we've learned over the years? Who has something to share when I ask that question?
I'll jump in. I think one of the things, you said the phrase dig deep. And I don't know that I actually dig deep. So in my filter, dig deep sometimes might be like, you know, working hard or figuring it out. And the success that I've had in the last several years has actually been to be more present to what's going on right now and not necessarily making it bigger than that. So the most important part is getting reconnected to the inspiration. Like, what is it that's important to me right now? What is it that my life is about? If I were to leave the planet tomorrow, what do I want to make sure is emanating out of me right now? And that's a pretty simple place to start. It doesn't have to be heavy or anything. You know, I want people to know that I lived my life my way, whatever it is, right? And then from that point, then it's clearer for me to say, okay, so then what do I want to do this year? And how do I want to show up? And what do I want to have? And who do I want to be with? And those kind of questions just kind of just easily then cascade from that point for myself.
Yeah, it's funny because for me, the digging deep is connecting to the inspiration. Like, that's what I mean. Like, if I don't stop for a minute and like kind of reconnect to the core, which can, to me, is a little bit of like a deeper spot. I can get swept up, like already it's halfway through January. And if I don't stop for a moment and like really reconnect to what you're saying, which is most important, and everyone could have their own metaphor for what that is, I can just like have my calendar full. But my calendar full doesn't necessarily mean I've designed my year, or
Right.
I've taken something to the next level, or I really feel like I'm inspired and motivated by what I'm choosing to do. So for me, there does have to be like a little bit of a moment of like just stop and at least go within and take a breath before all of a sudden half the year is gone and I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? How did I get here?
Yeah, and Betsy, just to clarify before Andrea and Franciska jump in, but the phrase digging deep for you means just kind of like, you know, being able to get to that source. And I'm saying the same thing, getting to the source, but I don't want to give the impression that for some people it's angst, for some people it is deep, long, important work, and for others it's not, you know, whatever. So I'm just kind of saying I don't ever like to put a heavy filter on it. Not that you do, I don't hear that at all. But, you know, for anyone listening, they may hear going deep as kind of like a you know, kind of a heavy filter.
Yeah, I think going deep and how you are going is really very individual. We all have our own ways to do that. And what I love about the 15 days to wow, how we use that process, that every one who will participate gets to do that reflection. Maybe that's better than digging. Reflecting, it sounds lighter. in her own way, or in his own way. I, for instance, as compared to you, Beth, I really love to take time and really look at a lot of details and aspects. So during the holidays already, I took a full day, and maybe I took even 2 days, to really go through my calendar and through my journals and see, okay, what has really happened? And what has been the meaning to that? And how did I feel about that? And when I like to reflect, I like to reflect at 3 levels. At the levels of what did I get to experience in my environment, but also what did I get to do in my actions? And also the level of who do I got to be? And there's a lot of, well, it goes in all directions throughout the year. So I like to take a lot of time, but for me, it's fun. For you, it would be something different.
Yeah. So I very much like the phrase "life happens when you're busy doing something else." So in some shape or form, I'm doing plans since 2003, when I discovered that actually the things that we do for ages with projects, making plans and then evaluating and looking what went well and what can we do better, and also how to meet the year ahead, because how to meet the year ahead also might be a very important question, depending on whether you are in transition or what is on your plate. So I really like to reflect on the year back, because I can clean it up then. I can clean it up, I can harvest from it. And what I have realized over the years, that sometimes I had fantastic years where we get out of the year on a high note, but often during a year all kinds of things happen, and especially when it's harder, it is I need to believe that life has meaning, because otherwise some years are just like, oh my God, how did I survive that? But really by reflecting in a structured way, and also being disciplined, whether your year is fantastic or your year doesn't feel so well, to look at what really is there to celebrate, and also harvest from that, and at the same time not deny the hardships and the heartbreaks that and the changes, that the permanent changes, whether it's parents no longer amongst us that just to stand still with it, and it's kind of a cleanup, and then at a certain moment it's complete, and then there's room for inspiration. I am still amazed how many people kind of agree that January is a fresh start, because it's December 31st and then it's January 1st, but somehow a lot of people experience that way, that it's a new possibility, a new chance, a fresh start, like you said, Beth, in our telephone call. And I really, really love that, the fresh start, and then the inspiration comes after I have cleaned out the previous year.
Mm-hmm. So here's another question. So obviously we all do whatever we do to reflect, to complete, etc. There's also a lot of times out there in the world, a lot of guidance to let go and to surrender and to relax. So how do you balance like letting go and going with the flow without, and not become too like micromanaging or controlling, or I don't know. So I guess the question is like, what's the point of actually pausing like this and putting some intentionality and design to your year? And what's the balance between like letting go and surrender and being present with being intentional and being thoughtful and trying to create sort of a point on the horizon to go toward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a question. Yeah, Beth?
Yeah, I really think that
I think
go ahead, Franciska.
We all think.
Yeah, I think that we all think. To your question, what's the point of going through that reflection? Because there's so much great advice of letting go and go with the flow and so forth and so forth. I mean, there are millions, maybe even more than that, good advices to do. But the point is to find our own advice for this particular moment, for this particular year. And the 1 year, it can be relax, for instance, as a guideline to take or be kind to yourself, or be easy, something like that. But another year, it can be that you may need more like a guideline of, step up, go out, for instance. So it's very individual. So the point of going through the process and reflecting for yourself, find your own wisdom and not copy somebody else's. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And to your point, Betsy, about being intentional about it, the intention, we train ourselves a lot to decipher between motivation and inspiration. We talk a lot about inspired actions too. And in order to get to the place where we can create goals from that place of inspiration and be intentional, there's another process important to get there. And also catch ourselves in the middle if there's another should or another goal that we put out there that is doomed to fail already because it's not rooted in our inspiration. And this is kind of like a whole puzzle to decipher what is what, and therefore also community, getting questions, talking with an accountability partner about it, like where does it really come from, is helpful, because it's not. Sometimes it's also very surprising what comes up. You never know up front.
I also think, Andrea, along those lines, if we don't take the time to actually process what's occurred, and, it doesn't have to be lengthy. I mean, it's just, it's a process. Process is a process. And if we don't take the time to actually do that, I feel we're kind of in a pattern, and I'm going to even use the phrase doomed to repeat. Like the system is set up to repeat. It's not set up to change. And so by processing something, whether it was good, bad, the year, whatever it is, it gives you that moment of choice that now you're looking ahead and saying, what is it that I would really want? What is it that is most important to me now? And so I do think it's very important to process that. And to let it go is I think every human being has a problem with that. It's such a great cliche. Let go, let God, whatever. It's like, there's so many things, and everyone says the same thing. You got to let that go.
You should.
Easier said than done, for sure. And I know for me, in my own experience last year, and we've talked about this before, there was a moment, I don't know when it was, maybe August or maybe July, where I just woke up one day and thought to myself, I felt like things were just swirling, but I woke up and I said, I truly am doing the best I can. Like, I don't know how to do it any differently. If I did, I would do that, but I don't. So this actually must be the best I can. And it's not that I wasn't, reflective or asking for help or anything like that. That, intentionality about being Franciska, about like really recognizing, that was one of probably the most profound ways of acceptance and letting go that I've experienced in a lot of years.
Yeah.
Because it really kind of just became a, you know what, I am really good and I'm doing the best I can. And that's
exactly.
Exactly. So I'm hearing the themes of like breaking patterns, finding our own confidence, making sure that your year is coming from inspiration and not just like what you think you should do next. And I'm also hearing that it's very individual. Like one year, someone's guideline of be grateful might feel very peaceful. For another person, that might feel like a should. And so really, whatever it feels like that piece of advice is for yourself, it can look lots of different ways. I know that we also mentioned the word goal a couple times, and that's another outcome of 15 Days to Wow, is not only like the mindset or the feeling of the year, the intentions, and making sure you're connected to inspiration, but also where you want to go. And I feel like one thing that Tiara does a nice job of is helping people understand goal setting a little bit differently. I think we're often surprised at how many of our clients, even though they're very competent in lots of ways, they're still a little shaky on goal setting. And I know we experience a lot of people who either overset like too ambitious goals, or they set something that's kind of not really a goal, or I don't know. It's interesting because there's so much attention paid to goal setting, yet I'm constantly surprised by how really not practiced people are. So are there either goals you guys have had in the past or goals you're contemplating or thinking about for this year that you could throw out there as examples of like the different kinds of goals that might be set for a year that feel both inspiring, but not, necessarily too small?
Let me just throw something out. There's two types of goals that we talk about a lot: process goals and outcome goals. And process goals are things that are ongoing, like work out 3 times a week, practice yoga every day. That's a process goal. You never really achieve it, right? You just keep doing it. The outcome goal is usually a specific event, something that you are trying to achieve, something you're trying to work towards or complete by a certain time. And there's a known completion, what completion looks like. So one of the things that we always like to ask our clients is, make sure you have enough of both of those. So it's not all process goals and it's not all outcome goals either, because they can drives behaviors, in different ways. In terms of an inspiring goal, I know there's been that phrase out there for a long time, SMART goals.
Yeah.
And years ago, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. I think that's what the SMART stands for. Well, we decided to make it, I don't know how many years ago we did this, SMARTY goals. Because we said, look, if we're going to get that serious about a goal, it better be inspiring. So the I we added at the end of SMART for SMARTY is about inspiring. So, this year, I'm looking at, all my goals, and some of them that are SMART, I'm actually sitting with personally, how am I going to make that a SMARTY goal as opposed to a SMART goal?
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And to your earlier point, Betsy, when you were talking about the balance between being intentional about something and letting go, when you have done the process properly, there comes a moment where inspiration comes out of itself, and even a goal that kind of looks big, we can feel that we want to dig into it, and that's actually a good a good moment when you look at your goal and you get tired already. Don't put it there. But when you think, okay, it's big. I don't know if I can achieve it, but kind of. I like to start. Then you are in a good place. And I have had goals on my list that for years they were not inspiring. They were really, I would so much wish it, and I hope by putting it there that it will happen. And now I kind of also have goals about growing our numbers, our membership numbers, for instance. And I really feel inspired to do it. So it's the energy around it, and also that you can kind of feel where the first step can be, so that you get the momentum rolling. That are smarty goals. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a couple of examples too, just to throw out there for people to consider. So for example, you said the yoga thing earlier. I get pretty downtrodden pretty fast when I have a process goal, like do something every week, because my life isn't just really designed that way. And that's not also how my system works. But I was thinking about having my yoga practice goal this year be do 100 of the yoga practice that I practice by the end of the year. And that one I like. I mean, it turns out to be like an average of 2 a week, but there could be 5 one week and 1 another, or I could skip a week. And I like the idea of having like kind of a little scoreboard and getting to that 100 mark. So like 100 yoga practices. I also have like in my hallway, and I didn't do it this past year, but it's something I really want to focus on this next year. I have these like magnet boards. And so for like my goal around the relationship I have as Aunt Betsy with my friends' kids and my sister's kids, it's like I want for each of those kids, and I don't know who they are, to have a picture of like a memory that we create together for the year, so that by December 15th next year, like each of those kids that's near and dear to me, there's like an actual picture of something special that we did together. So that one I love. And then one that's interesting, because it's one that I think people would be like, oh, you should have that as a goal. But I really don't know if I do, but I kind of do. But I don't know yet, is this. It's something like this. So as like if I think about next year, at the end of next year, part of me wants to say, okay, I have a goal to take off between Christmas and New Year's and not have to work one time, which a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, you should do that. And there's also part of me that definitely wants to get the operation side of our business to a place where that's like a no-brainer, and I could do that whenever I want. However, if I'm really honest with myself, and again, this is why we take 15 days to set our goals and like the whole month of January, like I kind of like checking in at work, and I kind of like tuning in to see how things are going. And I kind of like the idea of our business being to the extent that like at the end of the year, beginning of the year, it's a busy time for our business, like people signing up for 15 days to WOW or launching their years or doing whatever. So even though there's part of me that feels like I should or might want to do that, I don't know that I really actually want that. So I might tweak that to sound a little differently or something like that. But that's just like an example of different ways. And of course there are big things. Like you could also have a goal of like climb Mount Kilimanjaro, or obviously, your son is getting married this year, Beth. That's going to be a big part of your year and how that goes. So there are other things that might feel more clear to people, but in these areas of life, and we look at, each area of life and try to articulate what's the thing that would really capture what I would love to have happen in that area, and see if we can design it in a way that it does feel really good.
Yeah, and there are pieces in our year that's already there, like for instance, the marriage of your son, Beth, and we can have a goal around how we want to experience it, how we want to show up there, because often we just stumble on things and then it's gone. But being intentional about how we want to live our lives, how we want to experience it, is as important as these goals themselves.
Yeah. What else? What other insights do you guys have in this conversation, or things you want to mention about our process needs? Yeah, Beth.
I think one thing is to not take it so seriously. I think we can really overthink, overstress. If you really are coming from your heart, like what would I love to have happen this year? Like what would just delight me? If you can keep it on that level, you'll know you are really zoning into your, to your point, Andrea, the inspiration side, because it will just make you smile. You know, that's really important. And the other thing I would just say is, once you make the plan, of course you want to work it, but even, this is kind of like a disclaimer for you, even when you don't work it, at the end of the year, if you were to pull that plan out, you will be so amazed by what you've accomplished because you set the intention, as you said, Betsy, earlier, at the start of the year. Like, you'd put it in motion by putting the plan in play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of goals, absolutely, Beth. And how the plan is useful, also useful for me in case of dilemmas, or when I need to make a choice that feels very difficult. When I look back to some of the key elements of my plan, I often find the solution inside of that. So
true. Yeah, very true. It's very grounding in that way. And, you know, we remind clients all the time that you're making up this plan. It's not like a performance review. It's not pass fail. I mean, it's just you from your heart saying what I'd love to have happen, and having the courage to put it out there, and then having some support, you know, from the Tiara community along the way. And that adds that to that lightness, so that it doesn't feel so heavy, like you have to achieve it or else kind of thing.
Hey, Betsy, I got a question for all of us. How long, think back, you know, how long consecutively now have you been putting plans in place? Andrea, I heard you say 2003.
Yes, every year.
Franciska?
I think, yeah, me too. So for such a long time already, yes.
Yes.
Well, I think it's the same window, because that's when we started, I think, planning processes
The
together.
best year yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember. I can't remember my life before that point.
Is that good or bad? I don't know.
There was no life. There was no life.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did something.
Yeah.
There's pictures of me at that age, so it must be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Goalless and clueless and guideless.
But I look different.
You look different, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's been about 20 years. So if somebody's listening to this, you know, Facebook Live, you know, here's 4 women who've done this for about 20 years, you know, consecutively, and we're going to keep doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So even if you have started your plan, or you have it in some place, or
the more.
Well, go ahead, Franciska. Sorry, there's a little delay.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the more you understand about your own inspiration and where it's coming from, the less that you want to let go of it. So every year, that's for me, I search again for that very essence of that source of inspiration. Yeah.
And it does end up being a source of confidence when you can pause and connect to what's true for yourself. So 15 Days to Wow starts on January 16th this year. And like we said, it's 15 minutes a day for 15 days. We have 3 calls, so you can get a little live support if you want, and you get a wow factor each day to lead you through this process that we're talking about. And the other good news is it's only $15. So no matter where you are in your process, we would love to have you join us for that if you feel like you'd like to get a little bit more completion, a little deeper connection to your source of inspiration, and a little clearer roadmap of what you'd like this year to be about. You're very welcome to join us. So thank you guys for being on the phone today, or not phone, whatever we're on, Facebook Live. And next week, we'll be back.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Ready. Bye.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for watching. All of you who watched.
Bye.
Bye.
Good.